Hello, creative spirits. Welcome to another episode of Your Creative and Magical Life. I'm your host, Cecily Saylor. In case you forgot, I'm a creativity coach, I'm a writing coach, I'm a tarot reader, I'm a writer, I'm a weirdo, I'm a witch, I'm a worshiper of nature, and I'm here to support you in living your most creative and magical life. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about the energy of creativity. This kind of started because I decided, in a fit of inspiration, to do some Instagram lives. I was going to do 5 appearances and each time talk about 5 things related to something that's kind of foundational to my work, sort of the philosophy that I work from. I did the first one on creativity and capitalism. I did a second one on creativity and academia. And then I was going to do one on the energy of creativity. But then I had some technical difficulties and thought, I don't actually love doing Instagram lives. Um, I'm not very good at them. I can't make them like have captions and like look nice and like whatever. And I just love sharing through the podcast. So I'm shifting that over here. And I'm going to start in the middle with creativity as an energy. I plan to record some episodes on the 2 topics I just mentioned, creativity and capitalism, creativity and academia, and then maybe a couple others. I do think I want to focus on like creativity, the process of creativity for each person. And if you have other topics you want to hear about, please let me know. So let's start with the energy of creativity. I'm going to focus on 5 aspects of this. And yeah, this in particular is probably the most foundational belief I have in my work. And so, number one is just like the belief that creativity is an energy. It's not a trait. It's not something that people have or don't have. I do think, yes, there are people who are through nature or through how they were nurtured growing up, they do have a greater disposition and affinity to work with creative energy. But everyone has that capacity. Every living thing has that capacity to channel creative energy, work with creative energy. And some of us might be nurtured away from that, to be discussed in our creativity and capitalism episode. But yeah, it's not a trait, it's not a feature to be creative or not creative. It's not like a gene, it's an energy that's all around us all the time. I see creative energy as just like coursing through the universe. It's in the ground, it's in the air, it's mysterious, it's ever present. I even think that creativity and creative energy actually involves and contains the energy of destruction or dissolution or decomposition, that is also actually a creative process as well. It just looks to us like a the opposite of creating because it's something like leaving the world or like coming out of its current state. But I actually think that's just another creative process where material gets um, reorganized for creative use some other way. So it's all part of the same thing, really. That's number one. Creativity is an energy. Number two is that this energy is always available. So, like I said, I think this energy is everywhere. It's all the time. It's like ever present. I believe this energy is the same energy that created you and me, that created the grass that's growing outside your door, the trees that are growing on your street, the flowers that are blooming in the springtime, the magnificent colors on a bird or a butterfly. Those were all things the energy of creativity made. So I like to think of it this way too, because it also just satisfies this kind of like spiritual concept of the creation. Like we are living in the creation. Like the Bible begins with on the first day, right? I haven't actually read all of the Bible. Um, God created light, right? On the first day, God created light. Maybe he said, so there shall be light. I'm going to look this up really quick. Um, but there's kind of a biblical reference that this is all the creation. Like the first story of the Bible is about the creation. In the beginning, here it is, God created the heavens and the earth. So this sentence makes God the creator and the producer of the heavens and the earth. But I think the energy of creativity, which is divine, which is like sacred and way more powerful than any single one of us, is responsible for the creation of the earth and the creation of the heavens, if you believe in that, or whatever realms you ruminate about beyond our living existence. So I think this is validated by the fact that animals are also creative beings. Like we sort of see them just doing these biological functions, like a bird building a nest, right? But a hummingbird, for example, makes 400 trips back and forth from its nesting site to wherever it's sourcing its materials in order to create the nest. That will include spider webs, moss, hair, little twigs, maybe pieces of paper. And the hummingbird is able to make this nest over these 400 trips. Like, maybe making a painting could require 400 or 40,000 brushstrokes. But 400 trips, the hummingbird will craft its nest, which is very small. It's a very small nest. It's very cute, but it will make the nest so that it actually looks like it's just a part of the tree. It's gathering that lichen, the moss, to kind of make it blend in. It shapes the nest to look like the tree. This is the bird recognizing that the tree looks a certain way and it wants to camouflage itself in the tree. And then through observation and trial and error and biological impulse and the energy of creativity and watching other birds make their nests, it too can make a unique nest in a unique place, conform to the shape of the tree in some way and disguise itself. That is a biological function so the bird can breed, but it's also a creative process. There was not a nest there before, and this little bitty bird made the nest painstakingly. There is also a fish I saw once in a David Attenborough show, like blessings and kisses to David Attenborough, who for decades has been educating us about the biology of this planet and helping us respect and celebrate the other life forms on this planet, which I think is so critical, especially at a time when our actions as humans are eliminating species. David Attenborough is still out there educating us. He's old. He's like 80 or 90, and he's still doing his job. And I love him. But in one of the David Attenborough shows, I believe it's a David Attenborough show, I remember the story and the scene with a fish who lives in a kind of sandy bottomed section of the ocean or the sea, and is a kind of like solitary fish, at least for part of its life. And when it's ready to mate in this sandy field that it inhabits under the water, it uses its little tail and its little fins to make a mandala in the sand. Like it makes a big circular design in the sand so that other female fish can notice the design. And the male fish will sit right in the middle of this design and wait for his like one true love to come by and notice the art he made in the ocean floor and fall in love with him. And if that's not creativity, like, fuck me, I don't know what is. So that shows me that creativity is not just something for humans, it's something that is coursing through the universe all the time. And what we're doing is we're channeling it, we're accessing it, we're collaborating with it. It is flowing through us and using our physical form, our hands, our mouths, our bodies to help us transform material, bring something into being. So we're on number two. This energy is always available. I will caveat that by saying that we don't always feel like we have the capacity to connect with the energy of creativity. So just because the energy is always available doesn't mean that we are always available to connect with it. We may be feeling down, low. We may be feeling overwhelmed, overtaxed, overburdened. And when our energy, when the other demands of life, when our mood, when we just feel like it's hard to get out of bed, we don't feel like we're able to connect with creativity necessarily. And that's okay. So just because it's always available doesn't mean we need to always have to use it, but it does mean we can access it when we want to. Some people think that creativity has left them, like if they're in this phase of writer's block or they're going through a dry spell, that creativity has abandoned them or they're no longer a creative person and like that's the end of the story, it's over. But if we are willing to see that creativity is always available to us, we can find then that there's something going on in the artist that they may not be aware of fully. They can feel it. They feel the dryness, they feel the block, they feel the frustration. But there's some psychological thing happening, like a resistance to failure, an avoidance of success, a uncertainty about what to say, or a fear around changing as an artist and starting to do something differently than the way they've done it in the past. So, or some other number of reasons. It could be grief, it could be heartbreak, it could be a shift in self perception. So, that's not to say like that person's broken and like it's really just to say like it's repairable. It can be. Um, we can work with that. We can shift it and we can find a new relationship with the energy of creativity. That's what I do as a creativity coach is help people work through those internal blocks, which are very natural, especially in capitalism, or if you spent any time in academia, or if you had parents who think creativity is only valuable if you're going to make a lot of money, or if you are already making a lot of money and you have like spare time to be creative, you know. So, for any number of reasons, we might feel blocked in this way. That's something I help people work through. Number three, creativity is collaborative. So, since creativity is an energy that can, yes, it can flow through us, but it also exists outside of us. This means that when we are working with creativity, we're in a collaboration. Us, the human, creativity, the energy, are connecting and co creating something together. It's my belief that creativity sometimes chooses us to work with a particular idea or project or tell a story on its behalf. Like creativity, just the energy of creativity cannot manifest things on its own. It needs material, it needs a channel, it needs kind of like an operator to take its energy, funnel it through something, and turn it into something else. So if you have an idea that you've gotten, that you received, that you downloaded from the universe, whatever, woke up with, got in a dream, had while walking through nature, I believe that that is a gift from creativity. Creativity has said, hey, this person I think would do a good job with this idea. So I'm going to bring it to them. and maybe they'll create it. Maybe we'll work together to create it. And then it's sometimes the human's like, fuck yes, this is a great idea. Let me make this. And sometimes the human is like, I can't make that. Why would I make that? That already exists. Someone else already made something like that. Why would I make it? Or I have too much going on. I can't work on this idea that has like no proof or has no proven value in the marketplace. Like, I just don't have time for that. In which case, creativity will take that idea to someone else who might be able to act on it for whatever reason. But it's a collaboration. And I think this is helpful to think about or remember because it means that the burden of creating something such that it feels like a burden, sometimes it is work, it requires labor to create something, but that the whole effort is not only yours, it's not only yours to bring to fruition. Creativity is helping you. There is a presence surrounding you. Even if you are working by yourself in a studio day and night with maybe someone only popping by to bring you food, let's say, very dramatic version, um, you would feel quite alone in your work. But I think you would also feel not alone in your work. You would feel this presence, this energy that you're working with that's helping you create things that you didn't really see coming from the beginning. That's why when we create, there's an element of surprise because there's something outside of us that's shaping the process, that's influencing the process. It's not just like born entirely from ourselves. So I like to say this again because it's a reminder that you're not doing it by yourself. And creativity is an energy that wants to support you in the creative process. Like it's not here to burden you or torture or torment you or like force you to make something that you don't want to make. But if you do want to make the thing, creativity, if you're willing to embrace it and see it as a collaboration and not see it as just like your own ego and brain having to figure out every piece of the process and make it perfect, then we can kind of relax a little bit. We can trust the process a little more. We can come to creative practice and creative time with more curiosity and more openness around what's going to happen rather than feeling like we have an agenda that we have to execute in order for the time or the practice to have been worthwhile. Okay. So just take a little breath. Curious what's coming up for you right now. I don't know. Obviously, I can't hear you. Um, but yeah, let's take a little inhale, exhale. Just to review our first 3 points, creativity is an energy. This energy is always available to us, and creativity is collaborative. So, number 4, it's a two-way street. If creativity is a collaboration, then there's two entities, let's say, interacting with each other. You're putting your energy in, your life force, your experience, your expertise, your level of craft. You're contributing that, the time as well. And creativity is contributing this kind of guidance, this infusion, this flow, this journey it's taking you on. So, when the energy of creativity is flowing through you and you're working on a piece of art, a piece of writing, then you are shaping that energy into the creation. At the same time, as the energy of creativity is flowing through you so that you can make this creation, you are being impacted as well. So it's like if air and water meet and have an interaction, both of them are changed. They don't just like sit still on top of each other. That can happen if other pieces are moving around and creating this like vortex, this doldrums that's possible. But most of the time, when elements are interacting, they're shaping and changing each other. When strong wind encounters the earth, it creates a canyon. It cuts through mountains. Water can do the same thing. When fire interacts with material, it will transform it. So creative energy has the same effect on us. It's not as maybe dramatic. It's maybe more like that wind carving out a canyon over longer periods of time. But I say this because people get so focused on the product that they're creating, the book, the work of art, the film, whatever, that they fail to notice that they're on a journey and that they're changing as this journey takes place. So when you allow creativity to flow through you for the purpose of creating, you will be changed as well. And for the better, I think. And so another thing I talk about with my clients is like, how is this process impacting you? How are you growing? How are you learning? And if you're working on a project that's close to your heart, something that you care about, and like, why would you work on anything else but those kinds of things? Then your willingness to explore those aspects of yourself that want to tell the story or be represented in the art in some way, your willingness to look at those aspects of yourself, to bring them into the light and to shape them through language or through image or color or however, is going to transform your relationship to the thing that you're writing about. You're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to no longer be holding the energy of that experience in the same way. You've given it space to move, space to speak, space to be visible in a way that it wasn't before. And that's going to change you. You're just not carrying your experience the way that you used to. That doesn't mean it's like gone from you or it doesn't matter anymore or that it doesn't hurt ever again, but it will feel different. And so I think that's exciting as well. And this is another thing that we miss out on because we're so focused on the product. It's like we sort of forget that even if we're not working on like a product that we want to share and make visible to the public, if we're just like creating privately, kind of like to explore, to have fun, to fuck around, and we work with like material that's personal to us in that process, we get that little transformation. We get a little bit of healing through that. And that's why it can be very worthwhile. This isn't the only reason why, but it's one reason why it can be so worthwhile just to work creatively on something, on anything for a little bit of time, for 20 minutes, for an hour, even if you're not writing a book or working on an art show. You get something out of that in your own like spiritual and personal growth. This, I believe. Okay. And then the last thing I'll say about this is that if creativity is an energy, we also know that energy needs a container. So just like, water, every every piece, every body of water that we encounter has a container, a channel of some kind. It's either sitting in an ocean bound by shore and the bottom, carve outs in the earth for the water, or it's running as a river through a canyon, or it's falling off a cliff into a pool that will contain it down below as a waterfall. So, while creative energy is just sort of like floating around, in my metaphysical opinion, to work with it, it needs something to hold it and it needs a place to go. So, there's a couple ways we can think about this from here. One is the channel, our own creative channel, which I kind of think of just for like my own imaginative purposes as kind of like the channel that runs down the chakras of the body from the crown down to the root. It could be running through us like our veins run through us, or like our nervous system runs through us, like branching out all over the body. I don't know. Think about it however you want, because we can't really prove it. So just believe what serves you. But there's the channel within us that receives creative energy. And with that piece, I think it's important and helpful to tend to that channel. So that can look multiple different ways. That can be giving yourself fairly consistent creative time, like a little bit of time every week, at least 30 minutes to start, let's say, to just tune in, think about, imagine the channel opening, imagine the energy of creativity, however you want to envision that, coming through your body and seeing where it wants to take you, noticing what happens in my body when I let this energy come. How do I even imagine that energy? Is it pink? Is it blue? Is it rainbow? Is it sparkly? Is it dark and mossy? What's it like? And then what happens in the body when it begins to arrive and move? So it's just kind of like watching the river flow, seeing where it goes. So just imagining the channel, allowing yourself to believe there's a channel, and then allowing yourself to imagine the energy coming through you as a channel is one way to tend to that container. Another way is to notice or observe things that you think may be getting in the way of allowing creative energy to enter your field, enter your life, be with you more regularly. That could be some of those things we talked about when we talked about energy being always available. Sometimes we're not available for it. Sometimes we are in grief or heartbreak. Like I said, sometimes we are not feeling well. We are ill. We're dealing with chronic illness. We are too financially challenged and therefore too stressed to think about creative time. So that's okay. Like we need to cover our basic needs first. But that also means that we can use creativity to kind of creatively address problems and issues in our lives. We can always tap into an ounce of creativity to help us see the situation a little differently, to help us step outside of something, to help us imagine our pain as though it were a creature or a color or an energy, and thereby diminishing the feeling that it is all encompassing and impossible to overcome, and instead helping us just create a little bit of space somewhere for something to perhaps open up or diminish or bring a little more ease. But back to energy needing a container. So we talked about the creative channel. I think the last thing I was going to say about that train of thought was just that if there are things that are blocking our channel, preventing us from creating, depending on what it is and how available you are to receive support, I think seeking support, talking to other people about it, getting a coach, an art therapist, something like that, can be helpful in terms of tending to the channel. Just like, mm, after a flood, if the ditch is full of like sticks and trash, then when it rains again, the water is just going to create a kind of flood. It's not going to flow the way that it needs to flow. So we got to clean out the ditch. We got to get that debris out. And sometimes it's hard to see our own debris. Sometimes it helps to have a supportive person there with you, um, being curious about what's going on for you and helping you creatively imagine things to be a little bit different. Okay, so that's the kind of creative channel part of the container. And then the other thing about energy needing a container in order to manifest is that this is the art itself. The art becomes the container for the reception of this creative energy. And so you get to choose as the creator, as the artist, what kind of container this energy may take. And you also get to listen, because remember, creativity is collaborative. You get to listen to the energy of creativity that's flowing through you and get curious about what container it may want or it may want to take. Sorry, my dog is barking. So this too is the collaborative process where sometimes we think like, I have to figure out the entire container. I have to decide if it's going to be a novel. I have to decide if it's going to be a novel in the third person or the first person. I have to decide if it's a novel with multiple points of view or a novel with a singular point of view. I have to decide if this is going to be a short film or a feature length film. I have to decide if this is going to be a mural or a tiny postcard, right? So there are so many options, but as the creator, you get to explore those options and you get to work with the energy of creativity to discover what different forms it may want to take. And we don't have to use the same container over and over. I think that makes our creative process kind of boring and repetitive. We also get to kind of determine and explore as we go the different forms or manifestations or kinds of containers that the creativity may want to be held within. Okay, those are our 5 things. I'll review them once more. Creativity is an energy. It's not a trait. It's not an aspect of your personality. It's an energy that you can access. 2, the energy of creativity is available to us at all times if we want to connect with it. You are being creative when you change up the recipe when you're cooking dinner. You're being creative when you gather rocks from the neighborhood to make a shape around your flower bed. You are being creative when you look at your bank accounts or look in your closet and find things that you can sell so that you can have a little more money to cover your bases, to cover the expenses you need to make. Creative energy helps us do all kinds of things. It does not always have to look like art. We get to express and work with creativity as we would like. And the more you tend your channel, the more creativity can find you in micro and macro ways. Because it's like, oh, that human cares about keeping their channel open for me, creativity, to meet them and flow through them. So I'm going to keep an eye on them more. I'm going to like send them more energetic shots, rainbows, whatever, because their channel's open to it. And those other people who've kind of closed off their channel a long time ago, who are seen as uncreative people or people who are just not creative, creativity is not tapping on their door because no one answers. And they learned that creativity figured that out a long time ago. So until that person shifts something, until that person becomes ultimately like dissatisfied with the feeling that something essential and something essentially human is missing from their life, And maybe they want to be creative again. Until that happens, creativity probably isn't bringing them a whole bunch of juicy energy. I've gotten off track just reviewing the numbers. Creativity is an energy. This energy is always available to us. Number three, creativity is a collaboration. Number four, this collaboration is a two-way street. You get to impact the art you make. You get to work with and shape creativity. And creativity will work with and shape you. Pay attention to how your creative endeavors facilitate your own growth and expansion and healing. And number five, energy, including the energy of creativity, needs a container that includes the channel that you are for creativity. And it means that you and creativity get to collaborate to determine what kind of container is suitable for the energy that you're receiving. And you get to mix it up. The container can be as creative as the creative energy itself. Okay. So that's what I have to share with you about the energy of creativity. Stay tuned for the episode on the tower, which I think I promised you last time, but is still coming very soon. And stay tuned also, I believe, for an episode on creativity and capitalism and creativity in academia. If there are other topics you want to hear about, send me a message at hello@typewritertarot.com. If you are not already on the email list, I hope you will go to typewritertarot.com and subscribe because there's an entire learning community. There's a workbook I have. There's my creativity coaching. I do editorial support for writers. So lots of things, lots of ways I can help you. There's often workshops and stuff like that. So stay in touch. Also, very soon, I'm going to start soliciting some of your stories for the podcast. And if you submit a story, which could be about a magical occurrence, like a chance meeting, the manifestation of something, or a story about something in nature that enchanted you, a story about a ghost as well. I want to hear your stories. And if you send one in, I will share it on the air. And then I'll pull a card for you to see what the tarot, what the universe has to say to bring a little more context or meaning or understanding to your story. So I'm hoping we can have that exchange. Our creative energy can flow back and forth and across the podcast airwaves. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be in touch again soon. In the meantime, enjoy your creative and magical life by spending a little time creating and tending to your creative channel. Okay, bye.